Deadlock is a turn-based strategy game from really the mid-90s. It really isn't all that memorable or influential, but I've got a lot of fond memories of playing it. And had it not been for the times that I played this with my friend Alex, I never would have even looked into this game or learned more about its history later on. Even going back and playing it now, I'm not entirely sure why I liked it back in, I think 1997 is when I first played it. There are some really great things in this game, but those are kind of few and far between. I'll talk more about them, especially the battle system, which I honestly don't like at all, but I do like just the little base building that you can do, and moving some of your characters around is pretty easy. And the part that I thought was really awesome, which is really nowhere in the game, is the really thick manual that they give you with all of the lore in it. This was a time where you bought a PC game and they gave you like this 1.5 to inch thick manual. And probably half of it to 3/4 of it was all lore for just the different factions and everything that was going on. You got so much backstory just in those manuals, and it told you everything that you could ever want to know about what's happening. None of it was really important to playing the game, but it was so cool that it was in there. And Deadlock's got this amazing backstory, all of this lore in it. None of it's in the frickin' game, so when you get this game now, which you can for fairly cheap, you're just sort of given no story, and you're presented with a customization screen, and then you start playing, and all of these races are talking shit to you while you're playing, and it doesn't really mean as much as it could if, there was an actual story in this. So Deadlock was really one of the last games that Accolade released. It was an attempt to create a new franchise and sort of get the company back to where it had been in the 80s. It was commercially successful from what I can see, but it didn't really improve the company's fortunes. It did lead to a sequel, though, so that's kind of fun. The gameplay reminds me of a dumbed-down version of Civilization. You can micromanage everything, or you can ignore it as long as you're gathering enough resources for, basically your population to not be mad about something. I don't mind the gameplay that much, but it is pretty dated. When I would compare this game to something that I've played, recently, but something that I have played before, is Imperialism, where Imperialism gives you more control over certain things that you can do, like moving your naval units around, moving your military units. It allows you to actually control the battles. Deadlock just doesn't do that. It does give you more options to build bases and improve your cities, that sort of thing. But then it cuts to the actual battles, which you would think would be the meat of everything, and no, it's just sort of crap. So let me tell you a little bit about the battles here and why they were cool but also incredibly annoying all at the same time. The biggest problem with this is that these are all auto battles. You do not control any of the combat that goes on in this little screen. You can hit play, fast forward, and then you can end it. That's pretty much it. You'll move your infantry, aircraft, and tanks, or your naval units onto a space. Then you hit the end turn, it goes to the battle screen, and you'll see the battle play out if you really want to. This is really a huge disappointment, and there's also some more bullshit that goes into it. If you move, say, 8 infantry units to a battle and 4 tanks, once the battle's over, you only keep the 4 strongest infantry units and the 2 strongest tanks. It basically just makes the other units disappear, so you go back to just 4 infantry and 2 tanks. It's stupid. I'm not sure why that happens, but that's the way the game works. It's dumb. I don't like it. And yeah, it's probably my biggest criticism and something that really sinks the overall gameplay of this. So there are 7 playable races here, and then there is a neutral race which acts as a black market. The races have their own attributes, their own looks, and that's pretty cool. But all the buildings are going to basically look the same. And I'll talk about that again in graphics, because that's a whole weird thing with this that I just don't understand. So there are a lot of buildings and military units that you can recruit and build in this. There's a lot of resources that you have to manage, especially once your research tree gets pretty built out. Then you have to build buildings to really control what resources you're producing. That's kind of fun. It's fun that you can build a bunch of different troops, a bunch of different tanks. There's some missiles that you can build that act like the intercontinental ballistic missiles in Civilization. But overall, there's just not a whole lot there beyond it. So it really is a very dumbed down version of Civilization, and one that I don't think is really worth going back to look at, unless you want to put together a list of disappointing PC games. The buildings can be upgraded, which is kind of nice. You can build something, upgrade it, and then it turns from a 4-unit thing where it takes up 4 tiles on the little city screen, and then it reduces it down to 1. That's kind of cool. I'm really grasping at straws to say something that I like about this. Overall, I think it could be fun for a little bit, almost as sort of a morbid curiosity. It isn't as good as the other turn-based strategies like a Civilization, like Heroes of Might and Magic, like Imperialism, or even XCOM. I would much rather be playing any of those than going back and playing this one again. That's not really a great endorsement of it, and if it wasn't for my memories of this, I would not be here right now. This isn't a very visually impressive game. Even by the mid-90s standards, there's really not too much to this. The battle scenes look okay, but you can't control them. The buildings all look pretty good. The map scene looks alright. It's just kind of an average-looking game here. One annoying thing that did not show up when I was recording the footage for this, for whatever reason, everything is done through like these rooted menus. So whenever you're playing, you want to do something like build a building, see what's going on with a certain unit, you'll get this little pop-up window that shows up. And yeah, it's all well and good. But yeah, whatever. The buildings, though, all look the same for every race. So that's kind of crap, I suppose. The one exception to this is the housing. That will change from race to race, but it's just sort of like, okay, thanks, but why didn't you customize any of the other structures so that they look a little bit different? Each race does play a little differently, but not different enough for it to really matter. I do like the overall art style, but it isn't going to impress anyone. It's very much like Imperialism, where it'll look pretty cool, but it's not going to give you a wow factor that some other games will. Deadlock is a dated game that's only gotten worse with age. It is fun for a little bit, but there are other games from this period that are much better and games that I would rather be playing. Deadlock has similarities with Imperialism, Civilization, and Masters of Orion, and probably a couple dozen other games that I can't think of right now. Unfortunately, I don't think Deadlock is better than any of them. If anything, it's just kind of average. You can sit down and have fun with it for a little while, but once you figure out how to make the game really cheap and screw over all of the computer players, it's not going to be as much fun as you want it to be. This is one of those games that I probably would never have gone back to play if I hadn't played it with one of my friends. If Alex hadn't brought in the demo disc and convinced me to go out and get the full version of the game, then I probably never would have played Deadlock. Would I have been happier? No, not really. I would have been pretty much the same as I am now because this is just a video game. But I would have lacked those memories of playing with him and hanging out at his house, trying to figure out all the weird stuff that was going on in this game, and actually trying to play it the right way. And then when I went home, I realized I could just cheat and then play it the way that I know how to play it now, and just kind of get some cheap victories. When I go back to playing games like these, I try to see if they match that memory that I have from when I played them before, and in this case it does, and I still don't think it's a particularly good game, but it can be fun in short bursts. Anyway, that's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.